Hello and welcome to our program, People, Politics and Power. I am Imonia Marire. The call for restructuring evolved from a series of agitations arising from the national question, minority rights, resource control, and the legitimacy of the 1999 Constitution. Restructuring has become the latest buzzword in the political lexicon in Nigeria, with political and non-political actors pushing their ideas of a concept which not too long ago was disliked by many state actors. But now, the likes of former military president Ibrahim Babangida, former vice president Atiku Abubakar, former central bank governor and now Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, as well as other political actors have articulated salient reasons for restructuring and devolution of powers, which according to them will help to reposition the country and generate new ideas and initiatives that would make the union of the different regions worthwhile. To this effect, on Thursday, June 29, 2017, the matter of restructuring Nigeria was tabled at a meeting of the leadership and governors of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. And at the end of the meeting, which took place at the Imo State Governor's Lodge in Asokoro, Abuja, a committee was set up to look into the many calls to restructure Nigeria. The committee was led by the Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai and took the matter of true federalism to various states across the federation, seeking to know what the people really wanted. After long consultations and deliberations on their findings, the committee submitted its report to the leadership of the party on Thursday, January 25, 2018, for further action by the party. The committee recommended that power be devolved to states. It also recommended that 10 items be moved from the 68 items on the exclusive legislative list to the concurrent list. Some of the items include police and prisons, registration of business names, labor, oil fields, and geographical survey, amongst others. It gave a nod to state creation and mergers, independent candidacy, and of course it rejected local government autonomy. Now let's take a listen to a report on the committee's recommendations.
The clamor for the restructuring of Nigeria dominated the political space, and it became imperative for the ruling party to obey its own constitution in respect of the issue, particularly that it was seen as the answer to various challenges in Nigeria. It was indeed one of the campaign promises of the ruling party in the build-up to the 2015 general election. On assumption of office, the APC became hesitant on the issue of restructuring. However, the party yielded to popular opinion and resolved to go the way of restructuring. It therefore set up a 27-member committee. The committee came up with recommendations that could put the elements of restructuring in the right perspective. They include the concession of the control of mineral resources such as oil and gas onshore to state governments, the creation of state police, and the revision of revenue sharing to favor state governments.
The fifth item, sir, is mines and minerals, including oil fields, oil mining, geological surveys, and natural gas. This should be moved to the concurrent list. Mr. Chairman, this is a major recommendation because if this amendment that we are proposing is passed, it means that all minerals, including oil and gas, that are onshore will be vested in the states of the Federation.
The committee had engaged 8,004 individuals throughout the Federation. Some of the information received formed part of its recommendation. They are the inclusion of exclusive lists, which should also be concurrent. Also to be on concurrent lists are food, drugs and narcotics, fingerprint, and identification of criminal records and prison services.
We believe that if these amendments are passed by the National Assembly, they will significantly rebalance our federation, devolve more powers to the states, reduce the burden of the federal government, and make our country work better.
Receiving the report, National Chairman of APC, John Odige-Oyegu, said the report will lay a good foundation for one of the cardinal commitments of the party.
A few months back, before August, we had all sorts of experts, not just pontificating, but grandstanding on the issue of true federalism, on the issue of restructuring, the issue of resource control, to the extent that they started giving the impression that this was something the party could just flip a switch and hit press to Nigeria is different, restructured, reformed.
The recommendations are expected to be sent to the National Assembly.
Here's report there on the committee's report on true federalism. Now, on People, Politics and Power today, we shall take a look at the recommendations of the committee and the prospects for their implementation. I have joining me in the studio a member of Nigeria's House of Representatives, Amuda-Kannikes from Kwara State. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. The name is Amuda-Kannikes.
Amuda-Kannikes.
Thank you.
All right, Amuda-Kannikes. Now, also joining us is the National Publicity Secretary of the ruling All Progressives Congress, Malam Bolaji Abdullahi. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Okay, now, some months back, 16 southern governors met in Lagos State to discuss issues bordering on the socio-political development of the South, and, of course, restructuring was not left out. At that meeting, the governors deliberated on the need for true federalism, but promised to keep Nigeria as one united, indivisible entity. And then, of course, northern leaders also met in Kaduna, where they brainstormed on many national issues, including restructuring and what the interest of the North would be in that circumstance. Let's take a report on that.
Northern Nigeria is not afraid of restructuring. What we believe in is that we must engage our people, hear their views, aggregate their views, and then respect process and procedure. Simple, and that's what we are doing. And we cannot be stampeded into going into what we don't actually prepared for.
For in the midst of this debate, there are calls for using the reports of the 2006 and 2014 so-called national conferences. How can we forget that these are conferences designed to achieve predetermined results that exclusively serve the personal ambition of one individual and his cabal?
The problem is with the leadership. It's not with the structure of Nigeria.
That what is important, side by side with the restructuring debate, is to look at the very negative statistics that the North currently parades, particularly in the area of poverty, education, and healthcare. Of course, Dr. Abubakar has alluded to this by stating the huge number of our youths that are out of school. It is his belief that we all as leaders must concentrate on reversing this very negative and ugly sets of statistics.
We are better united. We are stronger
united, we are more prosperous united than being divided.
Whatever restructuring that is going to be made, let it be known that all forms of worship, whether Islamic or Christian worship, must be respected and must be given a place.
Nigeria of our dream, the Nigeria we need, is the united, indissoluble, and cohesive Nigeria which guarantees equity, fairness, justice, and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics, and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must-watch. People, politics, and power on AIT. Join us to build bridges of unity.
Well, as expected, since the release of that report by the El-Rufai Committee, or the submission of that report by the El-Rufai Committee, it has generated mixed reactions from politicians and non-politicians alike in the Nigerian political space. Now, we'll be looking at some of those reactions in the course of our discussion. And of course, here in the studio, we have Malam Abdullahi and, of course, an honorable member of the House of Representatives, Amuda-Kannikes Abubakar, who's also joined us. We'll be looking at all of this. Gentlemen, thank you so much for finding time to join us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Well, first is that, Malam Abdullahi, is that many think that it took quite some time, from July last year, when that committee was set up, till January, for it to put together a report that is eventually submitted last Thursday. That's about 5 or 6 months or so. And many thought that since this was an issue that was properly articulated in the manifesto of the APC, it ought not to have taken that long to come up with a position as they have done now.
No, that's not exactly correct. I mean, in terms of how long it took, yes, you are right. But if you recall the background to this conversation last year, yes, the issue of restructuring is aptly captured in our manifesto. But you will recall that the dimension it took last year was such that suddenly restructuring assumed an imprecise interpretation, and everyone was giving it its own interpretation, maybe naturally so, you know. And there are some people whose definition of restructuring even includes dismemberment of Nigeria. There are those others whose definition of restructuring includes redrawing the map of Nigeria, and the kind of maps were actually flying around the country at the time, if you recall. So we felt that, yes, we had this embedded in our manifesto, but it's important for us to aggregate the opinion of Nigerians. You will say that, yes, there are past constitutional conferences whose reports we could easily have adopted and used for the purpose that we wanted to serve. But again, these kind of conversations have always taken place at the elite level. So we felt we needed to go out, and from thereupon, upon our inauguration, we went around the country, 2 meetings in each geopolitical zones. And we had a total of close to 8,000 people attending all of those meetings put together. So what you have in this report that we submitted is an aggregate conclusion of the opinion, the views that capture the aspiration of Nigerians across the length and breadth of this country on what their definition of restructuring would be. Do you understand what I'm saying? So for us in APC, our understanding, our conceptualization is that we will pursue the agenda of true federalism in order to improve governance across Nigeria. That's the way it was framed in our constitution. Now, what it entails, what it means to every Nigerian will require for us to listen to Nigerians and bring them on board. And this is what we have. So we are very confident that the report we submitted reflects the opinion of Nigerians across the length and breadth of this country.
Now, Honorable Abubakar, let's look at the figures now. A little over 8,000 people said to have be consulted or made inputs into this report. I mean, I know that the membership of the APC as a political party alone is well over 20 million or thereabout. And here you have 8,000 or a little over 8,000 people making inputs into this. Does that look representative enough?
Yeah,
of the views of members of the party, if it's only members of the party we're talking about now?
Thank you very much. I think it is representative because if you look at the way parties are structured, by the time you are selecting people within the party that are airing the opinion of, they don't air personal opinions in most instances. They're airing opinions of probably, people who are constituent to what designation they are holding. So when you see 8,000, when you look at it, a lot of those people are probably ward chairmen, people who have conducted consultation at lower levels, that have had more robust background, collection of opinions. So by the time they're articulating the opinion and captured in the statistics, they are not just 8,000. Inferentially, it is the opinion of several, constituents that are now, being reflected. And I'll cite a specific example. We are 360. And we still, in the House of Representatives, yes. And we still make law for this country. So essentially, you cannot look at the number and say that is, statistically, but because we are representing people, often than not, we go and consult. That's what every rep should do. So by the time you're airing an opinion, it is a reflection of what the people that pushed you forward, are thinking about. So I think it is a good number in a structured party, system. It is a very good number, and I think the statistics is reflective of the general opinion of the people.
Malam Abdullahi, let's take out some of the peripheral issues before we go to the main recommendations. One of which is, the critics are saying, that it has taken the APC almost 3 years to come up with these recommendations by its committee. Just 1 year or a little over 1 year shy of the end of his tenure. And they are beginning to read political motives to this thing. Is there any nexus?
We're a political party, even including restructuring in our manifesto as a way of attracting people to our party is political. So we have political motives. You get what I'm saying? But the significant thing at the end of the day is whether we are committed to the promise we made to Nigerians, which we are. And that promise is to improve the way governance is done in this country by restructuring the governance system itself. That is the commitment. I don't think there's a deadline to this. Many of the issues that are being brought forward here have dominated political conversations in this country in the last 50 years or even more. We've not found answers to them. We call them the national questions, many of them, right? Now, if a political party is coming on board and say, look, we are mainstreaming this as an agenda, right? And we are able to, and we are driving this conversation and taking it headlong and pushing it forward and seeking opportunity that we have majority in both chambers of the National Assembly to push this through. I think without prejudice to whatever experience Nigerians have had with this kind of initiatives in the past, I think they should give us the benefit of the doubt and actually commend our party for taking these issues headlong. For me, I believe that a constitution is not made for the current situations in a country. It's made for all time. And I believe that even as a country, our nation, how old are we? We are still a very young country. So we'll continue to find our essence. We'll continue to find workable solutions on what makes us a country where no man is oppressed, as it were, where everyone believes he is being fairly treated and justly treated. So what we are doing is that we are leading this charge as a political party. So I think those who believe, who take a cynical interpretation of this exercise will be justified if you look at what has happened in the past when this just ends as report that people just collect and dump somewhere, right? But we intend to go beyond this, and that is why the submission of this report was not just report. It also includes an implementation framework. All the relevant legislation that require amendment have been done. All the bills, new bills that need to be drafted pursuant to the recommendations that have been made have been done. Now, the stage we are in is to get the most critical institution on this exercise, which is the National Assembly, to begin to drive it forward. Of course, that requires a lot of negotiation. That's what politics is about at that level. But I think we are demonstrating that we are committed to this because it's at the very heart of what our party stands for.
I'm sure that you understand why there is so much skepticism about the implementation of these recommendations.
Sure.
You recall that in 2014, former President Goodluck Jonathan set up the national conference. A few months to the next election, which took place in 2015, and the meaning that was read into it at that time was that it was meant to buy time and to keep the politicians talking while they oiled the wheel of their political process to get re-elected. Here we are again, with the APC coming up with a recommendation on true federalism, what many people will call restructuring. Just about
No,
a
this
year
is different. No, this is different. It is different in the sense that this is the first time that a political party is taking ownership of the process. It is the first time that a political party is saying we promised this in our manifesto and we're actually driving it.
Of course, the APC did not take part in the 2014
You understand
national
that?
conference.
So it is the first time that a political party is going around the country and getting the views of Nigerians, not just bringing people into a room in Abuja, with due respect to all the exercise that have gone before, which we have also brought on board in our consideration here. So for me, I think it's also the first time that we are going beyond just submitting report to actually drafting legislations that will move the process forward. So like I said initially, those who believe that this is another political gimmick will be justified given the experience we've had. But what I'm saying is that we cannot, yes, we are skeptical, yes, we think APC is just playing game, but what options do we have other than to continue to deal with these issues and to continue to push it and to continue to push APC to deliver on the promise it has made to Nigerians? We are taking the lead. So I think the cynical approach is not going to help us, regardless of the experience we've had in the past. The important thing is for us to embrace this process. We are inviting the political parties, all the political parties, to be part of this, because we believe it's about our country.
All right. Honorable Abubakar, you are a lawmaker in the House of Representatives. So ultimately, some of these draft legislations that he's talking about will come to the National Assembly for action. But first, having seen the recommendations of that committee, are you satisfied? Do you think that they are far-reaching enough to assuage the feelings of those who have been clamoring for years for a restructuring of Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you very much. I must first of all acknowledge, I would say, the boldness and the foresight of APC for even daring to put a topical issue like restructuring or, something that's topical in a mandate to start with. And they did not just stop at that. They decided to drive that commitment through the process they've done and that committee. We're all living witnesses to how very robust the discussions were in the past year on issues of restructuring. And like my brother here said, it even gave rise to a lot of different insinuations and definitions, on the issues of restructuring. So the job they did as a party is detailed. If you look at the report, they looked at the core issues, and that report addresses the core components that have been, the concerns of the average Nigerian. The issues of state creation and mergers of states were properly addressed. The issues of delegation principle, the issues of fiscal federation, the issues of devolution of power, and the issues that borders around independent candidature. But the most important, in my opinion, that addresses restructuring is the issue of the devolution of power in matters of the exclusive and concurrent list. And if you look at that, everybody that has agitated for restructuring, that has even dared to misinterpret or misdefine restructuring, everything is anchored on the things that they highlighted in the devolution of powers. Out of the 68 items, they narrowed down on 10 that are very topical. They talk about state police issues has been a strong debate and a recurrent debate over the years. They talked about resource control in some ways, and they were even able to create borderlines. They took a midway position based on the feedback they got from the people. They are only talking on onshore resources to be controlled by the state, either in mines and in hydrocarbon, which is oil and gas. They talked about offshore being in the exclusivity of the federal government. They talked about prisons. Most of the things that were addressed, we know the problem of prisons in this country. We know that we don't have enough prisons. We know that the federal government is struggling to even keep up with the maintenance and running of our prisons. So they talked about states also having prisons. Some states are already building prisons for the federal government. That's the truth.
Of course, you know that some of the arguments about the powers of the federal government being too overwhelming and the responsibility they carry too much load and all of that is anchored on these exclusive legislative lists.
Exactly.
68 items on that list. And the committee is recommending that only 10 of those 68 be ceded to the other federating units, that's the state, to operate on and all of that. Do you think that goes far enough? Shouldn't more of those items on the exclusive list to actually go to the states?
Okay. Beyond the numbers, 10 out of 68, I think we should look at what are they talking about in the exclusive list that they're saying that it should be concurrent. They are talking about state policing, they're talking about prisons, they're talking about food and drugs, they're talking about public holidays, they're talking about fingerprinting, registration of business names. They're talking about mines. They're talking about some level of resource control. Labor. Railways. You see, in my opinion, these are the things, you see, in any change process that the APC champions, this is a further reflection of the fact that, you see, change must be modulated. If APC has come as a party and recommended that all the 68 items or 50% they have narrowed down to priorities that will galvanize the economy and will give the states the confidence of resource control. We can't take away one fact. The state is closest to the people. And there is a need for more resources to go to the states so that they can better take up the challenge of addressing the needs of the people and giving back the dividends of democracy to the people. In a nutshell, what I'm saying is that the 10 items that have been recommended, right, are very critical in galvanizing the dividends of democracy to the Nigerian, to the average Nigerian.
Malam Abdullahi, one very critical aspect of this recommendation is this devolution of powers and responsibilities to the states that we're talking about. Is it accompanied by devolution of resources, looking at the current revenue allocation formula and all of that? Will that be part of this? Because if you are giving the states more responsibilities, you also should accompany it with more resources for them to execute.
I mean, definitely. I mean, a concomitant of devolution is fiscal federalism and all that. So normally resources will follow responsibilities. So as you move some of these responsibilities to the states, then the relevant resources will also follow the responsibilities that are going to the states. So what you find is that you cannot talk of devolution of power without talking of fiscal federalism. So for me, I think it's about killing many stones with one,
killing many birds
with one stone. Killing many birds with one stone. Because take the issue of state police. In any case, most of the police commands and establishments across the country are largely or significantly funded by the state governments, without the corresponding authority to manage the police resources or the police resources in the state. You know, so when anything happens in a state and the governor of the state and the chief security officer of the state has the primary responsibility